Soul Tribe? Welcome back to the Soul Wealth Summit. This is your host, Ryan Yokome, and this is a place to turn your soul's passion into a rich and thriving business that awakens the world. And as you guys can see beside me, we have another amazing expert speaker, Lizz Smoak. Welcome to the summit.
Hi, Ryan. Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited about what we've seen so far and what's about to come.
Yeah, this is going to be an amazing interview. So all of you guys, and first of all, thank you for being here. Like, such an honor. And so for everyone watching, all of you are highly gifted. Maybe you're gifted with your energy, your intuition, or your skills, or your relationships, or your communication. But maybe you're not really portraying that in a way that's actually leading you to get clients or make money or grow your business. And Lizz is the perfect person to talk to you about this. So we're going to get into some really good stuff that's going to help you guys move forward in your life and business. So Lizz, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Super hot. I'm in sunny South Florida, humid South Florida, in the southernmost tip in Key Largo, but really ready to dive deep into this topic that not a lot of people talk about. So it's going to be fun to see how people kind of use the information.
Well, when we spoke before the interview, that's exactly what I thought, because the thing that you help people with, there isn't a lot of people talking about it. And I would agree that everybody who's watching this right now has these tremendous gifts, but maybe they're struggling to actually make money from it and actually get themselves out there in a way that they can grow a business. So I just want to share briefly a little bit about you for our audience. So Lizz is a personal brand strategist, motivational speaker, and award-winning lifestyle entrepreneur. She coaches entrepreneurs to scale their business online globally by using their own skills, passion, knowledge, and a laptop, which is so great. So yeah. I would love to just start kicking off the interview, if you don't mind, because we're with the Soul Wealth Summit. What soul wealth means to you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So, from when I started my business to now, as many of you watching, there have been a lot of iterations, right? We grow with every bump in the road. We grow with every success. We grow with every deposit in the bank account, right? And hopefully you're growing from the inside out. Hopefully your heart space is opening with every client you get to affect. That changes a little bit more about your impact and your footprint in the world. So soul wealth is not only the size of our bank account and the luxuries we get to attain through our passionate businesses, but also the currency that's worldwide. And that's what's inside. The love and the impact we have to give to one another through our work. It's not enough to give blessings to one another and wish well to one another, but the work that we actually put into the world, the effort that we wake up in the morning to put into the world, has to be of value. Sure, it's great to wake up and do what we love, but how is that really adding to the sum total of what we need in this world? So that to me is soul wealth.
I love that. That's a great combination. Yeah, it's to me, that's balancing the masculine and the feminine. It's you have to have that side of yourself that gets shit done. Yep. You got to have that linear side, but then you also have this side where you're connected internally, or else you're going to feel empty. And so this is so great. So just for everyone watching, I would love to hear from you just a little bit more clarification on what it is that you do with your business and what's your passion.
Sure. So my passion is really helping individuals who know deep down in their gut they're meant for more, but don't know exactly how to connect the dots. And oftentimes the way I begin my coaching and journey with a client is finding out what their story is. And unfortunately, your story typically comes from a very dark place. It typically comes from your darkest hour, whether it be divorce, bankruptcy, health crisis. And those lessons that you learned from coming out of that space is typically the foundation of why you want to do more in this world. So we dig all that stuff up, and then we determine what out of that skill and that passion that you've amassed during that time is marketable. What is it out there that people can pay for, want to pay for? What is it inside of you that is worth building a business around? Because in the end, it's about profit, right? And I speak to a lot of clients who say, I really want to go in this direction, but it really isn't marketable, right? People aren't necessarily going to pay for that. So we need to find that magic combination of what you love to do with what you can do and what people are willing to pay for. So that's really the journey that I take my clients on. And then we build that business in a way, online specifically, that creates the freedom and the ability to work when you want, where you want, which is what we all want, right?
I love the work you do in the world, because I think people who are very spiritually gifted, or maybe are kind of aware they have gifts or fully aware they have gifts, is sometimes you have this tendency to, it just becomes kind of a dream for us, where we're not fully utilizing it in the world to make a difference and actually make a living from it, or more than a living. And so it becomes like, you know, it's like, how disheartening is that to know like you have these gifts, but then you're not actually creating the life around it that you can see yourself living. So it almost becomes just this illusion, you know, this imagination. So what I'm curious about is, you mentioned like, you know, the story in the darkest hour. Did you have a moment where you had to go through some darkness yourself and then to step into your light where you're at today? Did you have an event that happened in your life?
Absolutely. And you must be an interviewer in your past life, because you went right for the jugular on that one. Ryan knows.
I got to keep these real, right?
So yes, the springboard for my coaching business came out of that dark moment. My entire family are entrepreneurs. I was the only loser with a real job, right? Started working professionally from the time I was 14. Right. So I knew in my blood, in my DNA, I was an entrepreneur. I dreamed of it since I was a kid. However, I was never brave enough, nor being surrounded by entrepreneurs that know that owning your business is like a roller coaster. Like, don't leave your health care, don't leave your paycheck, don't do this. So I never had support, ironically, from the entrepreneurs in my family. So I was transferred, I was living in New Mexico, Albuquerque, and I was transferred down to South Florida. I never thought I would come back. This is where I'm from originally. And during that time, the first 2 weeks that I was here on my job, it was a job that I did not like at all. My fiance and my daughter's father committed suicide. Enter crash down to reality, right? Wow. So at my job, I'm at a brand new place. In the margins of my life, all of my belongings from my move had been stolen at that time. So here we are, 2 weeks into that. I'm at a job that I'm working 60 hours a week. I'm not seeing my kid. I'm not happy at all. Now this comes, and literally my snow globe was just shaken to its core. And it was at that moment that I said, you know what, I am through putting my life in my boss's hands, in my landlord's hands, in my friends' hands, and I'm going to take control. And, you know, control isn't a word that people like, right? You don't like to be a control freak. You don't like to be controlling. But when it comes to a sink or swim, do or die situation, especially when there's kids involved, you got to take control, because no one is going to have your best interests, not even your parents, your friends, the people closest to you. So at that moment, I was at a sales meeting, and they, you know, gave us all of our sales figures for the new year, and she handed me a pen across the desk and pushed the contract over across the desk. And I said, you know what, I think I want to meet with you after this. And right then and there, I resigned. Wow. And it was the scariest moment of my life, because I had no idea what I was going to do. At the time, I was designing handbags, so I had no clue where I was going. In fact, that was her number one question. She said, well, where are you going? I said, nowhere, but I know it's not here. But it was that leap of faith that opened up a fire hose of blessings and what was being held in the universe for me and my daughter. Wow. And here we are. We're successful. We're living freely. And, you know, it's all upward from here. So, yeah, dark moments can be the gate that opens it.
And thank you for sharing that. Like, such an honor to hear that from you, and just incredible. You're an amazing woman doing incredible work in the world. You know, there's something that you said I think was great. It was like one of the scariest moments in your life. Mm-hmm. And what did you learn about yourself?
Well, you know, everyone told me, and I'm sure a lot of you hear this, you know, you're not thinking about your child, you need a paycheck, you need health care, you need stability, right? All of that sounds extremely logical, and it is probably correct for many people. But I knew in my core that if I did not take control, I knew my life best. I knew my talents best. And I hadn't trusted that in the 30 years prior to actually doing making the step. And what I learned at that moment was, you know, it's not life ending. You know, you leaving a job, you going against advice that you've been given is not the end of the world. The death, end of the world. Done. There's no more, I learned at that point, you don't put a question mark where God puts the period, right? Because all the questioning comes up. But what I learned is I could have gone back to work if I had to. I could have leaned on friends and family if I had to. Sure, not ideal. And thankfully, I never had to. In the process, I was able to develop my voice, develop my business, and then effectively the life that we wanted.
It is so amazing. Where did you find the courage to go through that? Because I know there's people watching this that are going through things or have gone through things where they haven't fully developed their voice or their strength or their power and to express their gifts. Where did you find the courage to do it?
That's a good question. I'd never been asked that. The courage was really just, I guess, putting myself out there and getting immediate live feedback. So when we're in our homes, and I tell this to all of my clients, when we're in our homes researching, studying, we don't get out, we don't put anything out, there's nothing visible on social media, there's no way for you to receive visible or live real-time feedback, whether it's good or bad. Yeah. So you don't know, should I go in that direction? Because there's nobody either validating it or saying, yeah, try that again.
Yeah.
So I just started putting things out. And by the way, when I began, I didn't start off as a branding strategist. I started off as an alignment coach because I felt that when I lost my fiance, who, normal people don't commit suicide, so the relationship was very rocky in itself. But I knew when I lost him, a lot of my life became into alignment because I no longer had that incongruency with my core values, right? So I figured I can teach this. Right? Your finances, your spirituality, your relationships, they all must be in alignment. But what was happening, and this is going to be part of our conversation later, Ryan, is I was attracting people, customers to me that I didn't exactly like. They were perpetually stuck. They were in perpetual toxic relationships because I was teaching how to get unstuck. So clearly I was attracting people who were stuck. But for the most part, they were people who found reward in being stuck. So we'll talk a lot about how to attract the right person that really fills you up at the end of this.
That's, you nailed it. Isn't that the truth? It's like, so when you started going into, like, stepping into your power, you're in alignment, you're now a branding strategist, and like you're speaking your voice and your truth. So how does somebody take, like, because I think everybody somewhat knows their gifts, for the most part. I think everyone watching this pretty much does. How do you start taking that and actually bringing it to the world? Like you mentioned, you just started putting things out there, right? Like, so how do you start to do that for everyone watching where you can actually start to see some momentum and growth moving forward?
Yeah, the big thing, and I do this again with all of my clients, number one is visibility in social media. Or if you're not a social media entrepreneur, it would be live workshops. But for the most part, let's stay with the online theme because I think all of us are probably online. Is even if it's not perfect, even if it's just a try, but at least what happens when you put something out there, specifically with images of yourself, right? We all talk about professional photography, etc., is people react to that because the energy that you're transmitting, you're opening yourself up. You're opening yourself up for feedback, for compliments, whatever the case is. And that really lights you up and kind of is the flame for the momentum. So it's putting anything out there like, hey, I'm in business. Hey, I quit my job. Whatever the case is, that's a little more business oriented rather than a daily post.
Mm-hmm. And how does somebody do that if they're fearful of posting that?
Yeah. The fear is hard to overcome. So, you're going to have to just step out, maybe find a buddy, find an entrepreneur or a budding entrepreneur that you admire to help you along the way, to maybe show you what your first steps should be. I did not have a coach when I began. I learned how to do my own website. I'd never done that before. So, I put in a lot of time because I didn't have the cash at the time. And through that, I learned my own business. So maybe partnering with someone who does fill you up, who can kind of show you the ropes and help you get out there.
So like having somebody who's done it, I mean, that's like the model for success, right? It's just
Oh,
somebody
clearly.
who's already achieved it, just go learn from them.
Yes.
And then like, so when you're working with people, I'm sure they obviously all have different brands and niches and different passions. And is there like a common first step that people usually have to take that allows them to start to get their gifts out to the world?
Yeah. Number one, like I mentioned, it's the story. Even if you don't share that story with the world, many people don't know it for themselves, right? So they don't know how they came to be. Like, sure, they lived it, but we don't recount that stuff every day. So they don't necessarily know, why do I have this gift? Why do I have this inclination to help women thrive, or whatever the case is? And understanding the roots of why you do what you do. Because typically the client that you will find most fulfilling to work with is someone who was you at that point, several years ago, right? You just don't necessarily see that they're the mirror image of you. That would be the first step. Second step is clearing out the clutter. And we all hear this, we all know this. Your brand is perception. Whatever is on social media, whatever is online is your brand. Why? Because we are in the age now that if we're going to meet our kid's teacher or go to a new doctor or, whatever the case is, what do? We go onto Facebook, we click the photos button, and we scroll down the photos, right? So those pictures, those college-like pictures of you chugging down some beers and, doing this with the tongue sticking out, like if that's not who you are right now or who you want to resonate with, get rid of it. If your kid is 6 and you still have pictures of you pregnant and nursing, get rid of that. That's not who you are, right? So make sure that what you are putting out there electronically is who is authentic right now. So those would be the two big steps.
Okay, so this is amazing. So story and then decluttering. And then one thing I love that you said is about you're always kind of like speaking to the person you used to be. I heard someone said once that when you're doing your promotions or marketing, think about who you were 4 or 5 years ago, and speak to that person. Do you have any tips on that, of actually who people should be talking to and who they should have in mind when it comes to their promotions and marketing?
Absolutely, because as we start to talk to that person, remember that you are probably, you don't want to attract a broken individual. Okay, I'm gonna say this very clearly and carefully, because some of us are probably thinking, well, a lot of our clients are broken. Yes, but you want someone who is motivated to be more, to do more, to invest in themselves, not someone who, like me, who the people I attracted were perpetually broken. And they found reward in that, because you will drain yourself dry, you will not be fulfilled, and you will start to dislike what you're doing very quickly. So the big thing is, sure, someone's having a hard time right now, but have they had a hard time for the past 10 years? Or have they found success in other places as an executive or in philanthropy? Do they do things that mark them as a motivated and successful individual? They're just struggling in this one area, perhaps weight loss, money management, branding, sales, right? So make sure that in your conversations with prospective clients, you are talking about successes that they've had in the past. If they tell you, it seems like I'm constantly failing, it seems like for the past 10 years I haven't been able to get out of this rut. As attractive as that might be for you, be careful, because you will probably end up creating another codependent relationship that they typically create with everyone else in their life.
Yeah, it's so true. So how do you word it? Like, how do you communicate or get the message across in a way where you're attracting different types of people then?
Yeah, so the big thing is, and we've heard this in other places, you can literally clip out a picture of an individual that you want to attract. The big thing is, if you're already in business, go back through your roster of clients. See if there's a client you've already worked with who seems to be ideal for you. And this is what ideal should mean. One, they can pay your prices, right? Your upper end prices. One, they follow your plan, right? The mark of a good coach is someone who can get someone to follow and execute against a plan, right? They refer you to other clients and friends. So those are marks of ideal clients. They're motivated and on time. They don't perpetually miss your calls or want to change your calls or want to negotiate the price down. Those are all massive red flags for the wrong person.
Interesting. So you take that. What I'm curious about is how much are our clients, if you want to go here, a reflection of ourselves, in their qualities and what they're showing us. If they're late for calls, or they're not referring, or they can't afford the price, like how much is that due to reflection versus our marketing?
Yeah, I would say, it's a very good point, because there are a lot of fears within us, perhaps when we began our businesses or even now in our business, where we say, well, I wouldn't pay for that, right? How often do we say that? I wouldn't pay $100 for that, $1,000 for that. So that is a very interesting point, because you don't want to market to people like you if you are that frugal and thrifty and don't have a history of investing in yourself, right? Look back. Have you purchased top-notch courses? Have you had mentors that have been in the upper echelon of society, even if you didn't pay for them, right? In circles that you don't normally run with, right? Have you had coaches in the past? Have you considered coaches for your children in different areas, whether it be learning, behavioral, right? Or do you say, let's just go to the library because it's free and we'll collect 10 books and figure this out on our own, right? Not a bad quality. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you want to get ahead and you want to leverage, right, yourself and not have to spend years and years thumbing through free books, you hire people who know the path, who know the pitfalls, and who know how to succeed in your specific area.
Yes, this is so good. It's so true. It's like, I'm always, as a coach myself too, like taking a look at, well, where am I playing and how am I showing up and how is that being mirrored through my clients and what they're doing, and it's all reflection. And then also when I'm stepping out and being in my brilliance and my light and my power, it's like, wow, it's like I can see that reflect too. I love what you said. So to me, it's just leading by example. It's stepping out and playing on that level. So okay, I have so many questions for you, because this is a huge topic with people, is they have these big gifts, but then they don't know how to actually get it out to the world and attract the right kinds of people. So I guess my question would be, let's say most of the people on the line, they're moving towards fully stepping into living their passion. They have all these gifts. How can they start to share through their brand on social media? What sorts of things should they be talking about? How should they be expressed? You touched on this a little bit, but I'd love to go deeper. On what are some very strategic steps of things that they should be talking about and sharing and posting about that they could take away and literally apply into social media today?
Okay. So especially for the spiritual entrepreneur, meaning yogis, hypnotists, chakra dancers, healers, Reiki healers, if you're in that space, I feel you. I am not necessarily an intuitive type entrepreneur, right? I'm mainstream. But many of my clients are intuitive healers of some sort. And the pain that they feel is, yeah, I can market to my own people, right? I can market to other yogis and people who are in the woo-woo space, right? But how do I get beyond that? How do I get into the mainstream market?
Yes.
Okay. So
Let's
now
get to the good stuff. Let's go, Liz.
Okay, so first, and by the way, if you don't yet have a pen and paper, go run and do that right now, because after this interview, I will be giving a 90-minute coaching call, and you're going to want to scribble down all the questions you want to ask me in that call, okay? That being said, number one, in that notebook, you should be writing a very long list, it could be a couple pages, of all the ways you help an individual. Okay, so for example, if you are a yoga instructor, not only flexibility, that's the obvious, right? But body image, stress, arthritis, weight loss, hypertension. I mean, go down the list. This should not be 4 or 5 bullets, okay? There should be a lot of things, right? Clarity, focus, blah, blah, blah. So whatever you do, write down a huge list of all of the areas that you can help an individual. I want to give you a very specific example of a client of mine who was very specific. She was a hypnotist for sexual therapy. Now, her problem was she felt extremely intimidated about putting out there that she was a sexual therapist. But that was her zone of genius, right? So she needed a way to market to individuals who either knew they needed this or, more importantly, didn't know they needed this in a way that she felt comfortable with. Okay? So hypnosis can be used for absolutely anything, but let's keep it very specific in this case. Sexual therapy, intimacy. Not many couples know they need this, okay, because it manifests in various different ways. I don't respect my partner. We argue about money. He stays up all night. He's never home. I can't stand him. Everything he says irritates me, right? So these are all things that your clients are probably saying to you throughout your conversations, right? Really has nothing to do with intimacy or sexual therapy. So we think, right? Because as the professional dives deeper, as the hypnotist dives deeper, they can tell that many of these problems within a couple may stem from lack of intimacy in the bedroom specifically, right? But your customer doesn't know that. Your customer just knows, I can't stand this chick that I'm married to, right? Or I'm falling out of love, I want to go cheat, right? But all roads may, in these cases, lead back to intimacy. So that is what you want to crack open, okay? So with your list of items that you've made and all the areas that you can help someone, the next step is Business 101. This is not a hobby that we're running here. Market research. Market research. You go back to the customers you've helped, or even the customers you want to help, and you interview them at length. How did you find me? What made you come to me? Specifically, I was having trouble in my marriage. I couldn't balance my checkbook. I was overspending constantly. Whatever the exact terminology, sentences, fears that they're using with you, you must write them down. Because you want to be using copy in your social media, in your website, in your conversations with prospects that your customers are already using, right? So I get all the time, how do you know all this stuff about my business? I don't. I've never run a taco stand. I've never, run a software company. But I do know fundamentally what fears an individual has, what obstacles there are for someone at that level, whether it be an executive level or anything like that. So once you understand the type of things you can fix or soothe, the problems that you can soothe, you know what type of customer to attract. And the third part of that is then to begin to use that copy that you have, which is marketing material, into your collateral, into your social media posts. So for example, if you're focusing on, say, body image, you'll want to begin to post things that specifically have to do with body image. Not, hey, free yoga tonight, but are you struggling with keeping those 4 pounds a year off? This class is for you, okay? And you really create targeted marketing materials, whether they be sales pages for that specific issue, and social media posts, live workshops, coaching calls that are highly, highly targeted for that specific individual that you want to bring into your practice. Because that will open up a whole new type of customer for you.
This is awesome. You just broke this down, simplified everything. Everyone who's watching this interview right now, you guys are getting so much value. So this is like taking the story and then clarifying how we help people, and then relating to our tribe in their lingo, communicating with them. And then what's the next step? So what do you do once you start? Where do you recommend people drive people and on social media? Where are they going once they start posting? And what do they do when people start engaging on the content that they're now sharing?
I have found that most of my customers and colleagues tell me, if I can get them on the phone, I win, right? Because we're talking what we know, right? We may not be great on social media. We may not be great on a cold email or a blog post. A lot of people aren't. But when it comes to talking about your zone of genius, ain't nobody going to do it better. So I always say, get people, if you're a local business, get them face-to-face at a coffee shop, whatever the case is. And if you're not a local business, get them on the phone. And for God's sakes, don't charge for the first phone call, right? Because, there's a lot of people who will pay, right? There's a lot of people who are going to pay your $150 or whatever.
Yeah.
But really, should you? Should you? If you're dying for a paycheck, you're probably going to charge.
Yeah.
If you're not, and you want to really build a business with soul, and you want to surround yourself with people you like, figure out if you like them and call number one, right? Mm-hmm. Figure out if you're the right fit, if they're the right fit, if you can help them, right? And if you can't, again, please show them the door or show them someone else who can, because you're doing everybody a disservice, including yourself and your family. Yeah. Because when you have a client that you don't like, you're taking it into the bedroom, you're taking it in your car on the way to school, and everybody knows about it. So you're not doing anyone favors.
Yes, I love this. And I have a question, because I know everyone's watching, and I know there's people that are like, phone? What do you mean I have to phone? Can't I just post on social media? So here's the deal, guys. When I first launched my coaching business, the first month I did 80 free calls, 20-minute calls for people. But I had an amazing client base. Within the first 5 months, I went to 6 figures. So you've got to put that time in and build those connections. And I never did it to get in return. Like, I was receiving as they were coming. I did it to give, and like truly from my heart. So just for everyone watching going, oh my gosh, the phone, Liz wants me to call people, connect people. Like, any advice you have for actually getting on the phone and actually talking to people?
Yeah. So, and by the way, I did the exact same thing, Ryan. What am I trying to say? I blocked out 4 days of my life, and I did 40 calls in 4 days, and they were 20-minute calls that typically turned into half-an-hour calls. I never pitched one thing, nothing. I was like kind of 1-800 hotline, right? And I just gave business information, never knowing where that would go. I didn't have a product to sell, by the way, and I just wanted to meet people, get real-time feedback, and I booked 4 straight days from 8 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon that I had to pick up my kid, and did nothing but talk on the phone and eat granola bars. And and it was, like you said, the rocket fuel of my business. And to this day, those people are still with me from 3-4 years ago.
Amen. Same here. Yeah.
So if you are one of those people that think the phone has teeth, I'm not telling you to call out. I know that's a little more intimidating than people calling you, right? But what I am saying is, at this point, you probably should have had a couple conversations online through social media with this individual, so it shouldn't be cold turkey. I'm not talking about cold turkey calls. And remember, if they're calling you, they want to talk to you. If we're calling them, they may not be ready to talk to us, right? So I stress, invite them to call you. And then book out specific times in your day that you're going to do these free calls so that people get to try before they buy, right? You would want the same thing. That's why we test drive our cars. That's why we take tours of the colleges before we go into them, right? It's the same thing, no matter if you're charging $20 an hour or $150 an hour. Let people get to know you and see if your style resonates with them. They're going to appreciate it in the end. Yeah. I'll tell you another practice that started my business off on a great start. Every morning, and I love this trick, I use it all the time. Every morning, I would block off 30 minutes for Facebook prospecting, right? This is super easy. It's not complex. In your Facebook search bar, I live in Key Largo, Florida. So I would say, in my search bar, I would put friends that live in Key Largo, Florida. Of course, you'd put your own city and town, right? If you live in a teeny tiny town, maybe you want to go out to the bigger space, right? What that does is that gives you a list of individuals that you are friends with on Facebook, but you might not necessarily be friends with them. You may not even know who they are, right? Because people friend you just because you live in the same town. So then what I would do is I would have this list of, 5 or 6 people that I didn't know, and I would private message them. And I would say, hey, Ryan, I saw that we're friends. I see that, you have posts come up all the time. I kind of follow you, so I thought an introduction would be great. I'm Liz. I love to go to this local salon, blah, blah, blah. Never pitching anything. How are you? They would typically say the same thing. Oh, I love that salon. I love that happy hour, whatever. Then I would invite them to meet. Of course, letting the conversation flow, and invite them to a coffee shop or a happy hour or some local festival going on in town. And I would do that for 5 people every single day. I would try to get 5 face-to-face meetings, even if it was a handshake meeting at a local festival or something, and do 5 a day and shut it off and not do any more Facebook prospecting, because we know that that's the black hole of death if we let that go on all day. So even if you're an introvert, right, you're communicating, you're not going to networking events to meet people, you're meeting people right in your backyard, and you're getting to know them organically. It's a great practice to start your business.
This is great. One thing I want to bring awareness to, like, you're laying out the specific plan. Even what you just said is a really great step in between getting people on a call. Is like when we're starting to share and post like in the lingo that our tribe resonates with, is still building those relationships privately and then leading it, offline. One thing that really stands out for me with you, Liz, is you're so confident. You're like uber confident. And what I'm curious about, because I know not everyone watching this has that confidence yet, where they've built that muscle. But you mentioned when you were doing the 40 calls that you didn't even have a product at the time. So like, where did you, for everyone watching too, obviously listening in, where did you find you're just connected to your mission and your vision. It's like you're willing to do those calls, not fully understanding what the product is, but you're willing to put yourself out there and connect with. Where does that come from?
It came from a lot of years of people telling me something that I did not listen to. I happen to be theater trained, so speaking kind of came okay for me in public. I still got nervous many years ago. I don't now. And any time that I would speak in public, everyone would always come up to me after and say, Liz, you should be speaking. Unfortunately, I didn't listen to that for a couple decades, unfortunately. But so I knew in my mind, people resonate with me. I don't know exactly what it is, can't put my finger on it, but I know that something about me is acceptable to other individuals. So the big thing is trust. I trusted that I was given that gift for a reason. Mm-hmm. So I just let down my guard. I let down my agendas and my, predispositions and just talked to people. Mm-hmm. What works for me every time is when I kind of throw my business hat in the trunk and just talk to people, because that's what people need. They don't want to be sold, especially as Americans, we have a bad taste in our mouth about being sold anything. And it's simply a connection, and free advice goes a long way. If someone feels that they're learning from you, even if it's the most minuscule thing, they're going to automatically like you.
Yeah. Yes. This is so amazing. One of the things that I find in my life is when I get my head out of my ass and I place myself in service to others is when I feel the best. Like, I love being in service to others without having a hidden intention or agenda, just like to really be there for somebody. And I think everybody on the call can do that today. No matter what business you have, no matter what gifts you have, it's like you can place your service to people now, today, and start to see everything you're talking about, your whole business, your whole life start to shift. Oh my gosh. This is driving me nuts. I'm doing all these interviews. They're 40 minutes. We get to the 40 minutes and I have so many more questions, but I know we're at our time, and I know you have a really, really great free gift for everyone. Yes. With your 90-minute call. But before we get into that, I just wondered if you have any, last words, anything you want to share to our audience.
Yeah, when I used to watch summits like this when I started, I would always say to myself, yeah, but I need money now. Like, how do I get money now, right? And that's very real. You have to feed yourself or someone else. You got a car payment, house payment, whatever the case is. If you need money now, you better get off of this call and get out of your house and out of your business and start putting energy into the world. I'm not saying go to a network meeting and make 40 calls. No. Get out of your space and kind of hang your shingle on the world. Like, I'm open for business. You can't be open for business with just a website, with a Facebook fan page. That's not open for business. That means you get out of your house, you begin to speak to people, you give your knowledge, you find the people that need you, you go to yoga classes, you go to play dates, you go wherever you can to begin relationships. right? And by the way, another great tip that you should be executing is don't go to the business networking events, right? Everyone there knows that they are there to pitch and be pitched, right? You're going to go nowhere fast, and you're going to spend a heck of a lot of money on lunches. Go to places where you have common interests, whether it be the quilting group, the book club, the bike riders club. Why? Because everyone's guard is down, including your own, and you're there to share common fun, common goals, and the conversation is much freer than at a stuffy business place. So if you are in need of cash, you need to go to these places and start putting your energy out there so that these things can manifest and come to you.
I love it. Liz, you are the best. Thank you so much. And I would love to talk more about the live 90-minute brand strategy call that you have for all of our attendees. Yeah,
so if anybody watching knows me, knows that my 90-minute courses and classes go on for a couple hours and until the last man drops. But they're filled with, just like this call, it's no different. They are filled with actionable tips and items no matter where you are in your business. If you're just starting, if you're reinventing, if you've got a nice pipeline of clients, you will meet other people that are successful that have been trained by me as well. And you'll really come away with a notebook full of things you can execute on day one. So I'm so thrilled to be meeting you there.
Perfect. And do you have the details on that now?
Yes, so it will be, actually, no, I'm sorry. I will have to get back to you on the date and the link, but I'm sure with the interview, it will all be there.
Okay, yeah, we'll put everything for you guys underneath the video so you can go there. And yeah, get on that call. I mean, this interview was phenomenal, Liz. We can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks to everyone, and good luck. Write down your questions, and I'll meet you soon.
Yay! Thanks, Liz. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We love you, Soul Tribe. Please do us a huge favor and share the Soulwell Summit on social media. You can go to soulwellsummit.com, copy that link, share it on social media, and we will see you guys tomorrow for another interview. Liz, such an honor. Thank you. For everyone tuned in, thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.